Professor Attahiru Jega. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Sakla. I'm pleased to be on your program and keep up the good work.
There's so much to talk about with you. You are an embodiment of knowledge, that's for sure. And of course, you have played very major roles in our political history. And of course, all of that will be dissected, with the view that you would give us the truth and nothing but the truth. Do we have a deal?
No, the truth and nothing but the truth. That's how it has always been with me.
All right. For so many people, they see you on air. I mean, a face that most people are familiar with, especially that 2015, and you were at the center of it. You had a confluence. You were one person who was in the middle, and missiles were coming from front, right, and center. Given all of that, we'll start off from where we usually will start from, which is your background. Where are you from?
Well, thank you for asking that. I hope I remember the history. But originally, my father is from Jega in Kebbi State. And he was a teacher, but then joined the Northern Regional Government. So I was actually born in Kaduna. But as an administrative officer at that time, they were moved almost every year or other year. They are moved from one location to another. So by the time I started my primary education, I started in Mubi when my father was a divisional officer, DO, what they called DO in those days. But then my father decided that rather than moving every 2 years, changing schools, it would be better for me to go back to the village and stay with my grandfather and do my primary education there without interruptions and movements. And that was what happened. So I did my primary school in Jega. I was born in Kaduna. I started my primary school in Mubi, but then I went to Jega and did my primary school there, then went to Birnin Kebbi, which is the capital of Kebbi State now, and did my secondary school. So I'm a product of a provincial school, what in those days were called provincial schools, government secondary school, Birnin Kebbi. Of course, after the secondary school, then I was enrolled to do preliminary studies at Ahmadu Bello College of Ahmadu Bello University. It was called Abdullahi Bayero College of Ahmadu Bello University, ABC, ABU. So I did my preliminary studies and also enrolled to do my degree. And I graduated in 1978 with BSc of Ahmadu Bello University. Before, a year later, actually Bayero University now became a full-fledged university. After my degree, I did my NYSC at former Cross River State, now Akwa Ibom. And after my NYSC, actually I was doing my NYSC when I was invited to come back to Bayero University as a graduate assistant. I did not even apply. That was a tradition in the university at that time. They identify some of their best students and then they invite them back for training so that they can grow into the system and become full-fledged academics. And that was what happened. So I came back to Bayero, 1979, was a graduate assistant. By 1980, I got admission and I was given fellowship in the university and a scholarship from Northwestern State at that time. And I went to the US where I did my master's as well as my PhD between 1980 and 1985. So I came back in 1985 with my PhD and started my career at Bayero, and I never left Bayero actually as a teacher until I was appointed at INEC.
One recurring decimal is your attachment to the Bayero University.
Absolutely. As students, we were inspired by great teachers, you know, who know what a university system is and who instilled in us the value of education and research and also imparting knowledge on the next generation. And that inspiration kept us going, you know, and for me, I felt greatly honored. As when I was doing my youth service, I was applying for jobs, you know, and I had, in fact, 2 offers in other places I had applied. And then suddenly here is an invitation from my university that I should come back as a lecturer trainee, you know, and I felt it was a great honor to be called back, and I accepted to go back, and I saw no reason why I should leave, you know. So really, university systems in those days were offer younger people like me at that time the opportunity for self-satisfaction. I wanted to be a researcher, I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to impact knowledge, the little that I had, on the younger generation coming after us. You know, and it was a wonderful opportunity. It was very fulfilling. You know, I wasn't looking for anything other than developing a career in the system.
Who were your role models at that time?
In the university system, one of my role models was the late Dr. Bala Mohammed. He studied at Howard and came back to Nigeria and started a teaching position in the Department of Political Science at Bayero University, Kano. Subsequently, he became special advisor when Rimi won election in the Second Republic, and unfortunately died, was actually assassinated or killed. His house was burned, and he died in that inferno. You know, he was very passionate, very well learned, and a great inspirer of young people about not only education and the university system, but also what Nigeria needs to be and what governance needs to offer in terms of national development. So he was one of the most impactful teachers that I had and a mentor. And actually my going to Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, was his guidance.
You are like, if I may say, political...
Yeah.
Can you complete the word?
Well, I don't know, political animal. Everybody is a political animal, by the way. But
okay, I didn't want it to come from
an
me.
activist, yes.
I didn't want it to come from me.
No,
So.
I pride myself as an activist.
Okay,
and,
so when did you prick you?
I can tell you, I was a simple man doing simple things until I returned from the US with my PhD. I told you I left Nigeria in 1980 and I returned fully in 1985. And between 1980 and 1985, things had changed dramatically in the Nigerian university system. The university I studied and that gave me all this opportunity at with public funds to go and do my PhD and come back was a totally different university I met when I returned in 1985. And soon thereafter, of course, with the Babangida military regime and the adoption of the structural adjustment program, which said that government should roll back public investments in education, in healthcare, and so on, the impact was significant in the Nigerian university system. You know, so here I was. When I finished my PhD, I had offers of jobs in the US, but I said, look, I studied on scholarship, on fellowship from Bayero University. I need to come back and give back. And I came back and the system was totally crumbling, as it were. So that's how
I thought?
Yes, no, if you can see it was crumbling. And many people then, after structural adjustment program was introduced, many people were leaving, you know, and many of us thought that we couldn't just leave because the opportunities are there. We could have gone out again, you know. So we said no. And that was how we became active in the Academic Staff Union of Universities to say, look, this system needs to be saved before it crumbles. That's how I became involved in ASUU. And in 1986, I was elected National Vice President of ASUU. And regrettably, the president of ASUU in 1987 was sent packing from University of Benin, the late Professor Festus Iyai. He was president, I was elected vice president to him. You know, and the Babangida regime removed him. With his removal, I became an acting president of ASUU in 1987. By 1988, we did a delegate conference. I was elected fully as president of ASUU. And then, obviously, we intensified the struggle. Initially, to protect the rights of those that had been sent out of the university, but increasingly, to begin to tell the Babangida military government that you need to do something to restore the integrity of Nigerian universities. So they banned ASUU in July of 1988 while I was just starting as the full president of ASUU. You know, and we continued to be banned and unbanned until 1992, when I think the Babangida regime, because they had a very, very dignified gentleman as the Minister of Education, the late Fafunwa, who was a professor himself, a professor of education for that matter. He saw what we were looking for in terms of improving the Nigerian university system. So we were able to sign an agreement with the government at that time, the 1992 agreement, which really began to restore, revive the collapsing system that we were literally holding with our hands. You know, because many people had the so-called brain drain. Many good quality materials just left the country to South Africa, to other African countries, but mostly to Europe. That was the origin of the brain drain. And it was very, very negatively impactful on the Nigerian education sector. So the 1992 agreement gave everybody in the system a sigh of relief. That, okay, now government is beginning to show seriousness in terms of addressing the crisis within the system. But by January 1993, the interim national government was appointed. Nwabueze, SAN, was appointed as the Minister of Education. He threw away that agreement and said it was an agreement of imperfect obligation. The government cannot be bound by that agreement. And that was the beginning of the cycle of strikes and, you know, perpetual cycle of crisis in the Nigerian university system.
Speaking of this ASUU, I mean, it's a problem that we haven't quite, you know, put a finger on and, you know, be able to adjust it such that everybody's happy. You know, you've always come to the table and you turn your backs on each other once you leave the table. I mean, you're talking about government and, of course, the governing body. What, in your opinion, is that lasting solution to this problem? Because when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. In this instance, I think the grass now represents the students. Government on one side, ASUU on the other side. These are two elephants. So what is the solution to this problem?
I want to say that the basic principle that really, if we can stick to it, can help us address this perpetual cycle of crisis in the university system, is honest collective bargaining between unions and the government. What I mean by honest collective bargaining is when government appoints a team to negotiate with the unions, they must establish a framework for the team in terms of what can they agree to, what can they not agree to. And when government establishes that framework, government must be serious and honest about it. What has been happening when I look at, in the last decade or so, government will ask the Minister of Education to set up a negotiating team. And a negotiating, that is government's team that will negotiate with the unions. Sometimes they are not even given guidelines or framework in terms of if you are negotiating salary increases, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. So they are left to their own devices, and they will go and negotiate with the unions, and the unions prepare very well their positions, their arguments, so it's superiority of ideas. And the people who are negotiating on the part of government may agree to these superior arguments and will now commit government. And now they take the report back to government, and the government will say, we can't do this. So that has been a serious challenge. So if government wants to negotiate, let government be very, very clear. We can give this and try to find a meeting point.
Some people are of the opinion that, yes, the lecturers have a point. But again, for the sake of the children who are like the sacrificial lamb, is it a way you can, come to an agreement just for the sake of the students? Because the argument follows that the lecturers or the governing body of the universities are selfish. What would be your reaction to that?
Sakla, my reaction is to ask you, is it that parents just don't want their kids at home, they just want them in school? Is it just go to school, be in school, or do you want substantive education when they are in school? Because the way things are, if they continue like that, people will just be going through the walls of the university without the substantive education that they ought to have. And what ASUU is saying is that you need to improve the conditions. Otherwise, we will just be certificating illiterates.
But why is Nigeria known for these strikes? How are other countries resolving these issues?
Because other countries pay significant attention and priority to education.
So what's your take about this paper certification over skill acquisition?
We need to balance our educational provisioning. How do you balance your educational provisioning? First of all, you have to improve the pipeline. It should be the best people from primary school that go to secondary school, the best people from secondary school that go to tertiary education. But tertiary education has different sectors. It's not everybody that should go to the university, no doubt. In fact, even now, it's not everybody that goes to the university. Because those who have qualified to be admitted in the university system, we hardly take up to 10% of them in terms of the admission spaces that we have. But the most important thing is not to just open mushroom universities in the name of private universities, for people to just go into university. The public universities that have exponentially grown need to be fully developed, and they can only be developed by government providing the funding, not just providing the funding, but putting checks and balances so that there is value for money.
Okay, so now we leave education and we navigate into politics. Becoming the INEC chairman, what would you say were your drivers in terms of motivation, in changing the INEC that we knew before and what we have now and what we have during your time, actually?
Yeah, so basically what happened was I didn't ask for the INEC job. I didn't want the INEC job, but I was invited to come and do it. Everybody I spoke with for their input, from my family to my friends to my students, they were saying, don't do it. And I said, why shouldn't I do it? They said, well, everybody sees you as somebody who has integrity in courts. And if you go into INEC, you are going to mess up your integrity. Now, and that challenged me. I say, so in this country, for positions where you want substantive progress and improvements, people of integrity should keep aside because they don't want to soil their integrity. So I said, if that is the case, what is integrity if it can't be tested? So that was my motivation in going into INEC. So I accepted the challenge in spite of all the advice I got. Because I said, if it is true, as people say, that I have integrity in courts, let that integrity be tested. And as I have told you earlier on, if I have the opportunity to do something, I give it my best. And I give it my best. My best may not necessarily be good enough, but it goes some way. If everybody who has an opportunity can give his or her best to it, that's how we can change this country. But to be honest, I went to INEC also with a little bit of arrogance. I said, look, I have been ASUU president, chairing an ASUU. I was a young man in INEC, less than 40 years old when I became president of ASUU. And I would be chairing meetings with professors who were almost as old as my father, and then I became vice chancellor and I was chairing Senate and I had a good relationship with students. I thought I did my best. So I said, who are politicians? I can't deal with them in INEC. So within 2 weeks, I discovered that INEC was a totally different ball game than what I thought I knew.
What shocked you the most?
What shocked me the most was the recklessness of our politicians. They want to win elections by hook or by crook, and they want to use every means necessary. Once I overcame my initial shock of knowing that I'm in a different ball game, then I had to readjust. And what is clear, to readjust, you also have to get the buy-in of all the people you work with. Because it's the same, remember, almost 90% of the people in INEC that helped us to do 2011 elections and 2015 elections were the same people who did the 2007 election that was called the worst in the history of Nigeria. We did not change everybody in INEC, but we came with a clear focus. We drew the line, From now on, this is what you need to do, and we will all do it together, and there is no fear, no favor, and you see the result when that happens. And
you were also part of the membership of this Justice Uwe's...
Yes, I was. I think that helped me a lot because the Justice Uwe's Electoral Reform Committee studied what the challenges of elections in Nigeria have been historically, and having understood those challenges, made recommendations to government in terms of how we can reset the elections in this country on a better trajectory. So although by the time I became chairman of INEC, less than 20% of the recommendations of the Uwe's Electoral Committee were actually
adopted,
accepted by government. But knowing all those challenges, I had to find ways and means of addressing those that can be addressed without the change in the legal framework or the change in the administrative structure of INEC.
Okay, so what reforms happened under your belt? I mean, for those who need to, brush up their history.
Well, it's a long list of things that we did.
The very visible ones.
Yes, the very visible ones are clear. You needed transparency in the way in which elections are conducted. And that transparency, the starting point of it, is engagement with all stakeholders. And then we introduced technology. If there is any specific thing that we did that added to the credibility and integrity of the electoral process, is the use of technology. Now, INEC has tested a very robust technology for result transmission. And many of us are confident by 2023, Nigeria should be able to do a very robust, transparent transmission of results.
Now,
yes.
What would you say was your most challenging moment as the chairman of INEC?
The most challenging moment was dealing with politicians and government officials.
Yes, I mean, that spreads across. I mean, all the many years, you said it to yourself that within 2 weeks, you knew that it was not what you thought from the outside that you met on the inside.
Frankly, upon reflection, the most challenging moment was keeping the commission as one. Because the politicians were doing everything possible to divide us along religion, along ethnicity, along north, south. So to have the ability to carry all the national commissioners, the commission, to work together on a focus of delivering elections with integrity was very, very challenging.
When some people remember, or when they hear the name Professor Attahiru Jega, the one moment that comes to mind is in 2015. That was the announcement of the result. I was glued to my television like my life depended on it because of course, the many underlying issues, incidents, and of course, the mood of the nation at that time. Now, you were the most important human being in Nigeria at that time. And there you were, calm, cool, and calculated. In spite of all that happened in that room, you were just there. What exactly was going on in your mind? I really want to prick. I wish I could read it verbatim, what was going on in your mind. But of course, I don't have those powers to do so. So would like to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it's for what was going on in my mind was that, look, we've spent 4 years preparing for this election, and we felt confident that we were going to score at least 80%, which is an A. It can never be perfect. It wasn't going to be 100%. We knew, So we were not, how can we allow an individual, whether acting alone or on behalf of others, to destroy everything we've done at this sitting when we were just about to announce the results? So that was simple. So as far as I was concerned, all the allegations that Mr. Orubebe was making were false allegations, were baseless, and I wanted an opportunity to respond. Because if that situation ended up in a fiasco, many people would live under the impression that all those allegations he made were true, and then not only that, perhaps what we had spent 4 years to prepare for would have been scattered. So as far as I was concerned, I said, look, if it is going to end terribly today, it will not be because I have done something or any of the national commissioners here have done anything. If this thing scatters today, let it be very, very clear as to who is responsible for it. So that's why we just decided to listen to him. We knew that unless that place was going to be invaded, and we had assurances from the security agencies that and luckily, to be honest, I must say this. You were asking earlier, what did we do? One of the things we did was to improve security with regards to elections. We established as far back as January of 2011 what we call an interagency consultative committee on election security. So as far as we are concerned, we were ready at that time If they are going to physically move us, that's a different matter. Everybody will see, But for me to leave that place and go to the office and then not be able to come back was not an option.
This is already printed. This is already printed. We cannot take it.
Can you address?
You are tribalistic. You are selective. You are tribalistic. You are selective. You are partial. You are partial. You have been doing it. We will not take it from you. Until something is done, we will not allow you to continue with the process.
Thank you.
You will not. We will not allow it. We will not allow it. We cannot allow it. Nigeria will not allow this thing. Nigeria will not allow this.
Thank you.
Every protest must be taken seriously. The whole world is watching. Let him go to his office. Jega cannot be selective. Jega cannot be partial. Jega cannot be tribalistic. It is not possible. Let him go to his office to respond. Please. The point, which point is made? Let him go to his office and do it. The way he did about River State. No, please. No, I won't leave. I will not leave him.
Would you say it was premeditated provocation?
Now I know it was premeditated. Now I know.
At that time, you didn't think it was?
At that time, I didn't know. At that time, all I knew was that Mr. Orubebe and Bello Fadile, who was a special assistant to the National Security Advisor, were the designated agents of the presidential candidate of the PDP. But benefit of hindsight, later I heard that meetings were taking place at some place where it was planned to disrupt the process, and they tried to come in. Luckily, we had established trust and confidence with the security agencies, and they protected the International Conference Center, which was our Tale center, very well, and they prevented outsiders from coming in.
Did you feel that weight of you being the most important person
all I knew
in Nigeria at that time? Did you feel it? Did you feel the weight? Because a burden.
No,
it could have gone either way.
What I knew was that I was the presidential returning officer and I had a job to do. And as I have said, we've spent 4 years preparing, did everything possible to make sure the 2015 elections were better than the 2011 elections. So at that point, all I wanted was, let's end it. But I was, if anybody was going to disrupt it, I wasn't going to help him or her, and I certainly wouldn't be responsible for what happened.
Has there been any time where you were afraid for your life? I mean, in the course of this political, activities that you're very, very active in.
No, I wasn't careless. I think that's the way to answer it. I wasn't careless. I made sure I took certain measures to protect myself, but I have never had any feeling that somebody was threatening me. I knew in Nigerian context, many candidates or party officials have been assassinated, so I wasn't sure the level of desperation to win was such that you want to eliminate the returning officer, because once you eliminate the returning officer, then no return will be made for the elections. So I wasn't worried about that, to be honest, but I was prepared to die. I was prepared to die for what I believed in, what I knew I was doing to the best of my ability. And that is what I said again, going back to what I said earlier on. If you accept a responsibility, you must give it your best.
And you're willing to give your life.
And I was willing to give my life because nobody forced me. I was asked to do it. Remember what I told you about how I became a lecturer. I was invited. I didn't apply to be a lecturer at Bayero. And I felt honored that people thought I had something to offer. Here was President Jonathan. I had never met him, and I just got a phone call from his secretary to the government of the Federation that I am being considered, would I accept?
What made you, what would you say earned you that invitation and that appointment?
Well, I don't know what else earned me that, but I know that I'm a political scientist. I know that I have written a lot about elections, and I also know that I served on the OAS Electoral Reform Committee. And I believe that this significant criteria, for that job. And I didn't think that there are many of us, there are many Nigerians who have that kind of background.
This question, for me, it's also something, Nigerians will want to know. In the political culture that we have cultivated so far, usually the INEC chairperson, the number one person in INEC, is usually, sometimes, assumingly tilted towards the incumbent. But it will seem there was a deviation in your time. And the question is, what happened differently?
You see,
what was different?
Yeah, perception. People particularly have this perception, especially here in Nigeria. The so-called "he who pays the piper dictates the tune." Yeah. And it does not necessarily happen that way. So in Nigeria, people have assumed that once you are nominated or appointed by a president, then you will do his bidding, because you are favored and you want to return a favor. I didn't see my appointment into INEC as a favor. I could do things. There were many things I could have done. In fact, I saw it as a burden. But a burden that brought honor to me, because I didn't ask for it. I wasn't looking for it. They just said, come and do it.
Call to service.
Yeah, and come to service. And once I went there, I prepared myself to really doing my best under any circumstances. So unfortunately, people who assume that he who pays the piper dictates the tune underestimate that it's possible to have Nigerians who are appointed under law and who would stick to the law under which they are appointed in terms of what they need to do, and that they can do their job impartially, transparently, and without fear or favor. And that is key.
Okay,
Yes.
Leaning on what you just said,
Yeah.
has there been any time when, you have been tempted or exposed such that, you had the religious leaning, ethnic leaning, or other leanings, in front of you as considerations? And have you swayed in any of those directions in your call to service?
Well, I can tell you that just general example, I won't mention names or anything. A chairman of the ruling party at that time, maybe because that was how they were dealing with previous INEC chairmen, called me on a phone. I had known him before I came to INEC, so I had his phone number on my personal phone. So he called me and he said he wanted to come and see me for a discussion. I said, is it official? He said, yes, it was official. So I said, if it is official, may I suggest that you send us a letter asking for a meeting, suggesting even a date and time convenient to you, and we will reply to your letter. And if we can't meet at the time and date you suggested, we will then make a suggestion as to the alternative time. He said, well, that was not how they were doing before. He is a chairman of the ruling party. He wants to speak with the chairman of INEC, and he has to write a letter. I said, if I am the chairman of INEC, that is the way we are going to do it. Because I will never see you alone. I will only see you with some national commissioners, if not all the national commissioners, and I need time to tell them because they are busy people doing other things. So everybody needs to diarize when we are going to have a meeting with you, and it will be a formal meeting. It can't be one-on-one. The story went round. And from then on, nobody ever even attempted to come and see me alone. A governor walked into my office, and I was very, very furious. A governor who, until recently, was also a minister. You know, he walked into my office. So I was surprised, how did he pass through the main gate, all the checks, including my personal secretary, and came into my office. I walked him out. I said, I don't see people without appointment. I don't know whether he will ever forgive me for doing that. But I walked him out. I said, if you want us to meet, suggest a time, and I will arrange for us to meet. You know, but you can't just walk into my office, because you know I can't walk into your office. And we all have jobs to do. You do your job, I do mine. You know, so once I have many friends who became governors before I went to INEC, and whose numbers I have saved on my phone. And during the 2011 elections, problems will be happening, and they will start calling me. I refuse to take the telephone number of anybody who called me on elections, because we established what we call a situation room. If you have a complaint, call and report, and then we will follow up the complaint. If I have to pick every phone that comes to me on election day, I can't do anything but responding to individuals who have access to me.
So back to the question.
Yes.
You have never been swayed by political leanings, religious...
Yes, I have never been swayed. Let me even tell you something else. Some religious leaders who were supporting Buhari before the 2015 elections said they wanted to see me. Again, I gave them a proper appointment and time, you know, and they came, and they were saying that, you know, leading towards the 2015 election, you know, I needed to be fair, you know. There is a word in Hausa, just, adalci, you know. I said, look, you know, as far as I'm concerned, and from my little knowledge of Islam, justice is for all. Justice is not for one religion against another religion. The basis of justice for me in this position is that I will not cheat anybody. I will not see somebody being cheated and allow it, you know, and I will not be used to cheat for somebody. And these are things I've told many people, including President Jonathan himself. I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, in this job, I can't cheat for you. I can't allow anybody to cheat for you. I can't be used by anybody to cheat for somebody. You know,
and what was his response?
He said he was fair. That was fair enough. As far as he was concerned, that is fair enough.
What was your working relationship with the then President, Jonathan? Goodluck Jonathan.
I think it was an excellent official relationship. As a chairman of INEC, if we wanted to do something that required public expenditure, you know, he would create an opportunity for us to defend our position before his ministers, sometimes with his ministers, together with members of the leadership of the National Assembly, you know. And once we made our case and everybody saw the sense in what we are trying to do, like scaling up the use of technology, you know, he would support it. And he will support that we have the resources to be able to do that.
So how would you adjudge his leadership disposition? I mean, from your
I think personally, I will say that from the little that I knew about President Jonathan, he meant well for this country. He meant well for democratic development for this country. He did not interfere in my work in INEC, even though he appointed me. And he never gave me cause to worry in the discharge of my job. because we maintained an excellent official relationship, you know. But it was clear to him, no fear, no favor. There are laws that guide our work. That's how we are going to do our work. And he seemed to be okay with that.
What was your most ridiculous inducement? I mean, because, of course, it's our political culture to some extent to want to not putting it in words, right? What would you adjudge as the most ridiculous inducement you've ever been offered and the most juicy and tempting one that you were like, come, now you calling yourself Attahiru, are you seriously going to reject this? Could you share that with us?
No, frankly, unfortunately, I don't have that experience to share. Nobody approached me in INEC and attempted to bribe me. Maybe they knew that I couldn't be induced. Nobody.
No attempt?
No attempt. Nobody has attempted to induce me.
Our politicians?
Yes. There were things they tried to do initially, but those are in the normal course of things. You know, but once I drew the line and returned those things, they stopped. For example, my first Christmas, December in INEC, a governor from the southeast filled, not a lorry, if I say lorry I may be exaggerating, but a canter, is it they call it canter or truck?
Okay.
Yes, with bags of rice, sugar, everything and so on, you know, and they dropped to INEC with a card that these are compliments of so-so-so governor. They approached my PA. He didn't know how to approach me. Subsequently, they compelled him. He came and I said, return it to him. Tell him I don't accept this. He should never do that again. Of course, they took the thing away. I don't know whether the story went round. Nobody brought me any Christmas gifts.
Not even a card.
No. You know, so you see, unfortunately, the Nigerian politicians, the way I now understood them, if you yield an inch, they will pull a mile. And the best thing is, right from the beginning, make it very, I mean, as a chairman of INEC, yes, you know, I wasn't greedy, because it's only greed that will make me start taking those. You know, so the privileges I had was sufficient for my needs.
To some people, it comes as a surprise that you were an INEC chairman, you know, you were heading the electoral umpire here in Nigeria, and now you have crisscrossed and crossed over to, you know, having a political party or being really, really very active in politics. Before now, you were a governing body, you were a gatekeeper. Now you've gone into the deep waters of politics and, you know, you're swimming. I don't know if you're drowning. That's something you will tell us.
No, I'm not drowning.
So what informed that shift from being a gatekeeper to being, you know, one of the participants, one of the key players in politics in Nigeria?
To be honest, my experience in INEC led me to make that decision. But I was careful in making it. For example, the law is very clear. You cannot be appointed chairman of INEC or national commissioner if you belong to a political party, if you are affiliated to a political party. I was never a member of any political party, you know. So when I was appointed as a chairman of INEC, I had never been a member of political party, of any political party in Nigeria, you know. And of course, I did my job without affiliation to any party and so on. But the law does not say that you cannot belong to a political party after you finished
your tenure.
My tenure. And in INEC, I saw the character and the disposition of our politicians, very reckless, very self-serving, and they are taking this country aground. And I felt that, look, people who think that they have something to contribute cannot sit and be onlookers. You know, because if everybody sits on the fence or says that politics is so dirty I don't want to enter because I'm going to soil my cloth, it means you will leave the bad people to continue to have a field day. And the way they are going, unless some people come in to begin to help sanitize the process, they definitely give them time, they will wreck this country.
So what sets your party aside from the other political parties?
Because my party, which is the People's Redemption Party, is the oldest political party in Nigeria today. It was established by people like the late Malam Aminu Kano, who everybody knows are people of integrity, who are selfless in politics, who are projecting an ideology beneficial to the people. They are talking about human dignity. Human dignity needs to be protected, not just in politics, but in governance. Because human dignity goes together with human security. And what is human security? We will talk about insecurity in terms of people being killed or assaulted or harassed, But human security includes meeting the needs and the aspirations of people. And we are not fixated on 2023. We are not, because we know Rome is not built in one day. And we know that the way things have been so bad for so long, you need a long vision of how to change things in this country. So all we are doing, sensitizing, mobilizing, yes, we are fielding candidates for 2023. We even have a presidential candidate for 2023, and we will do our best for 2023, but we are for the long haul.
Okay, you talked about Rome not being built in a day. Your party happens to be the oldest political party.
Yeah.
And it will seem it's not as popular as some of the other ones who came afterwards.
Yeah, even the other ones that came in, you have to define what popularity is, because
for what it's worth, they have taken a shot at the number one position.
Yeah, but how did they do it? How did they do it? Through money, through manipulation of religion and ethnicity, through mobilization of ethnic and regional sentiments. That's how they have done it.
So how are you going to change these dynamics? I mean, this narrative that has defined our political space.
That's what I'm saying. Through education, conscientization, mobilizing of people, identifying what is wrong from what is right. That is the long haul.
What do you think will change in this 2023? I mean, you have seen it from behind the scenes. You've seen it right there on the front stage, even at the center stage. What do you think would change, apart from, this sensitization? Because from all indications, what has happened in recent times is that the young people are more integrated, more active in the political process. For what it's worth, they go to register and get their PVC. But it doesn't stop there. What do you think will change? What do you think will change that will crystallize into good governance come 2023?
I believe that by 2023, we will begin to see remarkable changes, not only in the way in which young people participate. By the way, until now, young people were actually refusing to register to vote. But you can see that during this phase of continuous voter registration for the preparations for the 2023 general elections, more young people came out. In fact, many, unfortunately, were caught up by the deadline established by INEC. So it means increasingly young people are realizing that unless they become actively engaged, not just on social media, but physically to turn out and vote in spite of all the frustrations, I think it's a very positive thing that is happening, and it will translate in terms of the kind of people who are elected. More young people are likely to be elected, and the better people, not only better educated, but most likely more responsible people. What is clear is that the old way of doing things has to change.
Now let's look into the future. What are your projections? What is next for you as an individual and, of course, a political figure, and maybe other endeavors that you...
Well, what is next for me is to keep on doing what I have been doing. I teach political science when we are not on strike.
By the way, he's one of my lecturers.
I thank God for His mercy and blessings that I have some knowledge I can impart. I can guide young ones, So, but if you expect me to contest for office, for example, I will have to think a lot. I will have to do an assessment. All these people I'm seeing, how am I better than them before I can offer myself, to contest for an office? If there are younger people, healthier people, more competent people, more energetic people that can probably do things better than me, why should I want to compete with them? I don't know whether you get my point.
Yeah, I do. I'm looking at you now, while you're talking. I'm looking at you, and something comes to mind, Yes, you're tough. You're very determined. You're focused. And you're not one to be pushed around. But there must be a button that people can press that really gets to you. What would that be?
I don't know, frankly. Frankly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel any button on me. Yes, but look, I am not a lone ranger, and I listen to people. I listen to advice. In that context, frankly, I will not rule out contributing much more than I have contributed to this country with my energy, with my passion, competence, and capacity. I won't rule it out, Only God knows best. But I am not desperate. I'm contented. I am happy doing what I'm doing now. And so I am not in the grain of, what is the word? Is it in the normal, I'm not your typical Nigerian politician.
They say the people deserve the leadership they get. Yeah. Is it for want of not making the right choice in terms of getting good leadership, or the system itself is set against the people? One. Then on the other side, you look at, let's say some leaders are made, some are born. Have we really as a people examined ourselves, such that we're able to make those right choices in terms of getting leadership right, so that followership can, key in, and then we can have a holistic growth, development, and advancement as a nation?
No, you see, the best model of leadership is leadership by example, by competent, experienced, and capable people. If you are competent, you are experienced, you are capable, and then you lead by example, by personal example. That is the most inspiring leadership that can carry people with a vision to achieve goals. Regrettably, in Nigeria, we have people who are just looking for positions, mostly for self-serving objectives. And either they may have the experience, but they may lack the competence and the capacity. And they spend a lot of their time trying to get to the position without preparing for what they will do when they get that position. And that has been the bane of leadership in our country.
So this political identity, which is, of course, resting on the tripod of religion, ethnicity, and then maybe other affiliations. How do we change this political culture such that, it reflects on the political identity that we've had over the years?
You know, the best political identity for Nigerians is to believe that they are citizens of Nigeria with guarantees, constitutional guarantees of their rights and obligations.
Where do we start from?
You start from having good leaders who will not be selfish or self-centered, or who will not mobilize religion and ethnicity and regionalism for their selfish interests, because that's what is happening. The key point I want to emphasize, we have to keep hope alive.
We all only know this black and white aspect of Professor Attahiru Jega. Is there a colored aspect to him? I mean, because you come across as one who is very straight-jacketed. Can you surprise us with some of the other things that you do that will wow the audience, that can be associated with you?
I'm just a simple man doing simple things.
I've heard that before.
To the best of my ability.
I've heard that before.
So I don't know what else to say.
Any extracurricular activity, any sports, you read, how do you spend your pastime?
I read a lot, I walk, and I swim, and I hike when it is secure to hike. So, I'm just your regular kind of guy.
And you seem to... Is anybody in the family that is taking after you? Are you grooming anybody, to wear this big shoe that you are really carving for yourself?
No, I teach my children to be self-assertive and to develop themselves to the best of their abilities, and to pick good things from anywhere they can find them, but to leave bad things from wherever they find them. So I'm not telling my children you must be like me. No. Nobody told me you must be like me.
Any of them modeling themselves towards you that you can see?
I don't know. I don't sit and assess them on the basis of whether they are
any one of them interested in politics?
I don't know. I know that at least I have one of them who studied political science and made a 2-1.
If it's not politics, if it's not teaching, what else would have been?
Farming.
Farming?
Yes.
Are you a farmer right now?
After I finished INEC, I had wanted to retire in my village to do farming and then maybe do part-time teaching in a university close to my village. But man proposes and God disposes.
And so we wish you all the very best.
Thank you so very
that
much.
You do.
I normally like simple questions, not complex questions. They are the right questions to ask. Some I may not have been well prepared to answer, but I commend you for asking the right questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so on that note, I want to say thank you for letting us into your home, because I'm sure very few people will come this far,
That's true.
To talk to Professor Attahiru Jega.
Yes.
I mean, we see you on the outside. You're always at podiums, foral, and all of that, but not in your home.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for opening your doors to us, a conversation with history, and it's actually been a jolly good ride.
Thank you.
I mean, you've given Nigerians very insightful ideas. It's enough, for food for thought for a lot of people who are looking at 2023 in the eye and say, okay, what do we do differently?
Basically, I want to say that we must keep hope alive. I'm repeating myself, but we can't lose hope on Nigeria. We must keep on working very hard and very seriously too, in order to bring changes to our politics and our governance. Governance in Nigeria has been very bad. In the last 21 years of democratic development, 22 years, frankly, we could have done better with our resources, with the human capital that we have. Unfortunately, we have not been lucky to have good governance. And to have good governance, people have to become actively involved in politics. And people have to eschew ethnic, religious, and regional politics in order to get the best people from anywhere in this country that can help us get out of the predicament that our country is currently in.
If I may ask, what's your favorite quotation?
I can't remember anything. No.
Okay, which philosophical statement, speaks to you as a person, and has guided you all your life?
Okay. Let me say this. I don't know how you're going to do it. You've posed a question that I haven't thought about. So, but one of my favorite quotes has to do with, come on, why is this? I can create a quote for you.
Okay, anyone, even from you. It may not necessarily be from anybody else, but from you.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
One of my students, who unfortunately we lost some years back, but very intelligent, very brilliant, who went to do his PhD at Oxford University, made a first class in my department, late Tajuddin Abdurrahim, became the Secretary General of the Pan-African Congress. And he popularized a phrase, organize, don't agonize. Organize, don't agonize. I think what has been happening is that many people spend so much of their precious time agonizing over what is happening in our country. Very few of us devote our time and energy to organizing for positive changes. So I would want to end by saying, let us all devote our times and energy to organizing for credible politics in our country and not just agonizing over our challenges.
Thank you very much.
The program is great, and frankly, I want to urge you, I commend you, as I have said earlier on, and I urge you to keep up the good work. You have to keep Nigerians informed. Those who participate in the program shouldn't get it into our heads that we have made history, but that rather we are contributors to making good history in our country. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so on that note, I want to say thank you so much for being part of
Thank you.
Conversation
It's a
with
pleasure.
History.
Thank you very
We've
much.
thoroughly enjoyed our stay,
Thank
and
you.
we've at least gained one or two things from this whole conversation.
Thank you very much.
And so on that note, I want to say thank you for being part of this week's edition of Conversation with History. Until next time, when we come your way with another interesting guest, it's been Conversation with History. And like I'd always say, be kind to one another and stay well.